Welcome to our video on the Xena Harness. The Xena Harness is a chest harness that is designed for self-tying, and it's also designed for partner tying. This video will focus on the partner tying version of this chest harness. The reason why I love the Xena Harness is because it's got 3 wraps around the top band of the chest. It is super comfortable and sustainable for suspension, particularly for face down suspension, as well as face up suspension, because you have a nice wide supportive band on top. The other incredible part about this harness is that it has a weaved shoulder strap here. Weaves are so great because they're flat, which again means nice and comfortable for most suspensions. There's no big hard hot spots of pressure on the body. It also means when you set a weave, they basically set like concrete. So they're excellent for setting right on that singlet line or the bra line, so you can keep it away from any trap issues or any vagus nerve issues near the neck. So you really target exactly where you want this chest strap. This harness is one of my personal favorites. I pretty much tie it as a go-to for everything. The Xena Harness was designed by Sylb Rope on Instagram, or just Sylb, SYLB, on FetLife. It was part of a challenge given in a workshop here in Melbourne that Sylb was part of, called Classic Ties, run by Jimster. The challenge was to design a suspension-worthy harness working off first principles and the basics of harness construction and what is stable versus not stable in suspension. It's called the Xena Harness because she was, at the time, she was building a cosplay costume for Xena, and this was done on her Xena mannequins. That's the backstory, and it's my personal favorite. I love it, and it's just so stable and comfortable too. For the Xena Harness, I recommend having on hand about 2.5 hanks of rope. I use either 9 to 10 meter hanks of rope to give you a bit of an indication, but everybody will be different, so use as much rope as you need to make it comfortable for the person who's going to be in it, because that's the most important part. So to get started, I've got some beautiful UV purple from Chromanauts via the Art of Rope here in Melbourne. For this tie, I'm going to start with a single column underneath the breasts here. You can choose your own version of a single column here. I like to use the Lark's Head reverse tension single column. You can find a really great tutorial on this single column on thedutchy.com. I'll link that in the video as well. They've got an excellent tutorial on this single column. I like it because anytime there is a reverse tension, it means the tension is held and I don't need to kind of have ambidextrous hands. So for this, for the single column though, I am building up. So I'm starting with a reverse tension. I'm wrapping around above my original line. I'm going to bring my rope all the way around. It doesn't get stuck underneath the mannequin. Then I'm going to catch it inside my U shape, bring it all the way through. Tying on a mannequin is notoriously tough. Then I'm going to finish this off with a half hitch. I'm also setting my half hitch so it's ready to travel in the direction that we're heading, which is up the torso. So I'm just going to pull my rope through. I'm going to settle my half hitch on top of everything. Perfect. Now we're going to get started. As you can see, my single column is a little bit low underneath the breasts, so I'm just going to shift it up. That's just a product of tying on a mannequin, so we're going to get that where we would like it. Perfect. Cool. So we're going to keep going. We're going to build a second single column above the breasts. So to do this, I'm going to hold my stem and I'm going to come around on top of the breasts, keeping my stem. Then I'm going to bring my lines underneath and reverse the tension. Again, we are building up, so I'm going to start my second wrap above the breasts, as you can see. Just going to make sure there's no twists in that. We're going to bring it around on top of the breasts. Then we are going to, you can see you have a U shape here. What we're going to do is we're going to bring our rope under and through the middle of that U shape to reverse the tension. Perfect. So this is the start of this harness. Next, we're not going to lock this band because we're going to be creating 3 wraps on top of the chest. So all we're going to do is we are just simply going to lay our rope around the top, and we are ready to build our stem at the front. So this is a weaved stem. So how we're going to work this is we're going to divide our lines of rope into pairs. So 1 pair, 2nd pair, 3rd pair, and 4th pair. Now we're going to weave over, under, over, under. To do that, I like to try to keep, sometimes it doesn't quite happen, I like to try to keep my finger here, because what we're going to do is we're going to come down, we're going to weave, and then we're going to go across this way. So we're going to use this as an anchor to go this way. So what that means is we're going to go over the first pair of ropes, underneath the 2nd pair, over the 3rd pair, and under the 4th pair. Then we're going to go on the same side that we came down, because we're going the opposite direction. So it's kind of going wrong way to go the right way, is how I like to think about it, but everyone likes to have their own way of processing this information. So we went over, under the 2nd, over the 3rd, under the 4th pair, reverse that tension, go over the top of the 4th. I'm just going to drop that so I can pick up and pull underneath the 3rd pair. Then we're going over the top of the 2nd pair and underneath the 1st pair of our lines. So we can then use our original line as an anchor to travel to the other side of our chest. Now what we're going to do at this point, we're just going to pause, and we are going to just readjust our tension. So all I'm doing here is I'm following the train tracks. I'm picking up where the rope came from, and I'm just gently pulling it through. I'm not flopping it through, I'm not like hauling it through, I'm just gently following the train tracks around just to readjust that tension. I know my tension is right when this harness is kind of holding its own shape. You'll notice very clearly on a body if the tension is incorrect, because the stem here will be kind of loose and floppy. So again, I'm just following the train tracks, just fixing micro tensions. And that will probably do. I'm also just going to face the mannequin towards me and just check that it's in the middle. It sort of needs a little bit of an adjustment, and I reckon that is pretty close to the middle. Perfect. So we're going to now come around to the back of our harness, and unfortunately I am going to need to join my rope in a really inconvenient place, so apologies for that. Feel free to adjust where you join your rope as needed on the person's body. Because this is a mannequin, I'm not too concerned, but I would avoid joining ropes under the armpits because it will be comfortable. And actually on that, when you are tying the 3 bands, make sure you start the first band fairly low on the breast tissue or on the pec muscle. The reason for this is because you are building 3 and you really don't want it to go up into the armpit because it's pretty uncomfortable. I much prefer the first of my wraps quite low on all of my harnesses. It's personal preference. So I think just trial and error and see where it best suits your body or whoever is in the rope. Perfect, so we've joined our rope. As you can see, our top wrap from our 3rd one, we're going to come underneath here to reverse that tension. So pull all of my meters of rope through. Perfect. I'm just simply going to reverse that tension. Now we're going to come from the top and go underneath, and we're going to create a half hitch over this entire bundle of reverse tensions to lock it in place, which makes it very stable for suspension. So we're going to reverse the tension on top, bring our hand underneath, and pull our rope all the way underneath. Now we're going to do what I like to call choking the stem. So we cross the stem and we come up and under the band on the opposite side of where we started. So we're going to pull all that rope through. And to create our half hitch, I'm just going to pull that little loop from the stem. Basically, essentially, that's realistically a munter hitch. But we're just going to pull our little stem up to make a little loop, and we're going to drop our running ends through that, and I'm just going to pull it all the way through as gently as I can on a mannequin. Perfect. Now I'm just going to dress this rope, which is kind of a climber word for just making it neat and kind of shifting the rope to where it would naturally shift to make it as stable as possible. Cool, okay, that will likely do. I'm just going to flatten these out. If I was tying a real person, I'd make sure all of these lines were as flat as possible to make it as comfortable as possible. Perfect, so this is the base of our harness. We have basically 2 single columns locked with a half hitch. We have our weaved stem at the front and 3 bands, so we're actually almost finished. Next come the shoulder straps and our little weave here. So to start that, I'm going to take my ends over the shoulders. I'm going to set this as my inside line. So there'll be 2 lines that come across here, and the first one will be the inside, and then you'll go to the outside. So wherever I want the line closest to my neck, that is where I'm going to set it. I think I'm going to set it here so I can leave another 2 lines here right on the shoulder or singlet line. So we're going to look at our pattern here. This is all the weave that we're about to do, whether we go under over or over under, is purely decorative. As soon as you do a weave, doesn't matter if it's under over or over under, this is just aesthetics. So because we went, this is an over rope, I'm going to go under here, but I always get the weave wrong. So if you notice I get the weave wrong, feel free to leave a comment if you feel like it, but this weave is purely aesthetics. So we went under, so we're going to go over the middle pair of ropes, underneath the 3rd pair of ropes. Then we are going to reverse our tension. We're going to go over, under, and over again. Perfect. Wonderful. Now we are just going to adjust all of our tensions. Again, I'm just going to follow my train tracks. So when you, particularly with a weave, you don't want to just yank here, because if you can see me yanking here, all it does is pull this up and deforms the harness. And this tension, look how loose it is. It just got looser. So you're kind of, by doing big yanks, I don't know why you would do that. It just kind of defeats the purpose of what you're doing. So just gently follow the train tracks and readjust your tension that way. So again, getting my finger underneath, gently guiding it and following my train tracks and just making sure my weave hasn't twisted as I've done my reverse. A twist can cause a little hot spot of pressure. And if sustainability is your aim of the game, then that can cause a issue later down the track for sustainability. Perfect. So we're going to turn the mannequin around, and as you can see, this is where we are up to. What we're going to do, because again this is a shoulder strap, it's not a critical failure, motor failure. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take my line fully underneath this top band. Going to just come underneath. Then we are going to go over our stem, so kind of creating like a smiley face, and back up on the other side, ready to do our next shoulder strap. So once I pull that all the way through, I'm going to readjust my tensions by again following the train tracks nice and gently. Now we're ready to do our second shoulder strap. Again, we're going to attempt to follow the same weave pattern, but if you mess it up, again, the weave is just aesthetic, whether it's under over or over under, so don't stress yourself if you're like me and weaving breaks your brain. So because that's under rope, I think we're going to go over, and again, I'm setting my inside line first. So I'm going to go over the first pair, underneath the second pair. I'm going to bring it all the way through, over the bottom pair of ropes. Under the bottom pair of ropes, sorry. It's rather hard to do on a moving mannequin. And then we're going to go over the middle pair, and I'm trying not to get my hands in the way, so I do apologise. And pull it all the way through. Perfect. Wonderful. There we have it. And again, we're just going to adjust by following our train tracks and adjusting the tension to match the other shoulder strap. Perfect. Awesome. That's a little bit more tension than the other side, so I might just loosen that off the tad. Perfect. And I'm just going to put it on my shoulder strap, bra strap part. Wonderful. So what we are going to do next is we're going to mirror the other side. We are going to leave this one on top of the top band because this one is underneath, so we kind of want to do like opposite day, but we're going to bring it underneath our stem, which is important to reinforce our stem. If you have heaps of rope left like I do, please don't be tempted to create multiple loops around the stem like this. You'll see some people make harnesses like that. Yes, it's pretty, yes, it uses rope, but what it can cause on natural fiber, so I'm using synthetic nylon here, but if I was to do this in say jute, which is an unrated fiber for suspension, by wrapping multiple times around the stem you can create a sheath like effect, which means that if the harness or if the stem is shock loaded, it is unlikely that all lines of rope in that stem and the sheath around are equally weighting the rope. So what it can cause is a shock load. So if it gets shocked, then one line snaps, and then that can cause a shock load on the remaining lines, and then you can just go ping, ping, ping. So be a little bit careful or mindful. I wouldn't say careful, I'd be mindful of that, and just wrap 360 degrees around the stem once. That's all you need to reinforce your natural fiber rope. So I'm just going to bring it over here so it is a true 360. And now we're just going to half hitch on this side. So I'm just bringing my running ends up, over, down to make a little loop, and then I'm just going to drop my lines through that. And that is how you tie the Xena harness. We have our flat 3 bands on top, we have our weaved stem, and we also have our weaved shoulder straps. I hope you like it as much as I do. Feel free to write in the comments how you may adjust it. Again, this is just a base. Make it your own, get creative as well. Now we're going to go through an extension that I love in this harness. This is an optional extra. It's great if you want a more flattening chest shape rather than one that really compresses the breast tissue and can give a really certain look. So this one is great for a flattening effect. So essentially we're going to split our weaved stem here to create this diamond shape. It's extra comfortable for face down suspension as well because you have a whole extra 4 lines of support. So I love this optional extra. I've done here, I've just reversed the tension. If you don't want this to move around, if you have more chest terrain like I do, then I would recommend doing a munter hitch here or a half hitch just to keep it in place to stop it from sliding up and down the stem. So let's get into this little optional extra extension. Perfect. So if you have a whole heap of excess rope like I do, excellent, let's use our excess rope. It's a great way to use it up. So I want to get in the middle of my chest harness here, and I'm at the bottom. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to weave up underneath the stem or behind the stem and bring it, ignore my floating lines for now. I'll just get those out of the way so they're less confusing. And I'm just going to bring it around the front here. Perfect. So if you don't want to do a munter hitch, I would suggest you just take it underneath the stem, reverse the tension, and just gently tension the lines. You don't want to deform the stem too much, but you want to make sure that you're leaving enough flexibility in this stem that you can open it up on the other side as well. And all you would do is you just reverse the tension like that. I'm going to do a munter hitch so it stays in place. So to do that, exact same, bring it underneath, bring all of my rope through there, around, and reverse that tension. Actually, you know what we can do here? We can do a cow hitch. So to do the cow hitch, you just want to loosen up that part of the munter hitch. This makes it way prettier. Oh, look at that, iterations. Cool, so I'm just going to pull my line through, and as you saw, I just lost tension on a mannequin, so I'm just going to readjust all of my tensions and this cow hitch. Perfect. You could do the cow hitch the other direction, so it's a little bit prettier and flat on top, but that's essentially it. The cow hitch won't shift as well, just like the munter hitch. At the back here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my line straight underneath my back stem and bring it around to the front again. And we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to come underneath. If you wanted to do your cow hitch the other direction so it's flat on top, I would suggest going over here rather than under, but I'm just going to match the other side. So we've gone underneath, going to come underneath to go the other way. So we're going to go underneath, bring it under our incoming line, reverse the tension on our stem, and then pull our little loop through and drop our lines through and just fix up that tension. I'm just going to move it over here. I'm just following the train tracks to tighten up my cow hitch. Love a good cow hitch. Perfect, just like that. Then again, I'm going to bring it around the back, and I annoyingly have not that much rope left. What I would do here is I would catch these lines to kind of sandwich them in place by going over, under. If I had enough rope, I would come underneath and half hitch over here. But because these are just essentially aesthetic purposes and decoration, I'm just going to split my lines. This again is a non-critical failure mode of this harness, so that is absolutely a-okay, because this is not critical to the suspension worthiness of this harness, and I'll just refix it. And that is the optional extra for the Xena harness, which is an incredible way to have a more flattening chest shape and way more comfort in a face down suspension. You've then got 4, 8, 16, 18 lines for comfort. Let me know how you like the Xena harness and if you've tried it and what you've kind of adjusted for your own body. Now I'm going to take you through where I like to place the suspension lines for this chest harness. This chest harness is pretty much 360-degree loading. You can load from the front of the harness, you can load from the side of the harness, and you can also load from the back stem. So I'm going to get my other beautiful length of chroma knots from the upper rope. So for the fronts on all harnesses, I strongly caution against just loading straight from the stem here, mainly because if you just say girth hitch, lark's head or something to the stem for your upline, it means that when the angle of the body changes, so too does the loading of the lines, which can drive discomfort and loading in different parts of the body that may not be sustainable or a place that's intended to have loading. So when I do my uplines, I always like to take both lines through, create my hanger. And again, depending on where I am, if I'm going to go into an inversion or anything like that, I will preload my hanger in the direction that I'm planning to spend most of my time in, so that all of my lines are equally picking up on the harness. There are lots of different methods for locking hangers and uplines. The most important thing with whatever method you choose is that when this is under tension, that all lines are loaded equally on this harness. So that's how I would load from the front of this harness. I can also do pretty much the exact same hanger on the side. Well, it's a little tough to get into with a mannequin. It's not very squishy. Oh, so I'm just taking my bite up underneath everything. Perfect. And again, just creating my hanger in the exact same method and making sure that I set my angles for my intended direction of loading. Perfect. And again, you can do the exact same at the back. So we can do that same hanger that I just tied twice, or you can do a spiral method. So you take your bite, spiral around and up, and collect everything like a cute little jelly blobber. And again, setting your angles. So this harness is so versatile, you can basically hang off it in any sort of direction.